we're going to go over liquidity ratios. So going over liquidity ratios, we're going to go through, first off, what they are, second, why they're important, and then lastly, we'll go into how to use the ratios we go over today. So what is the liquidity ratio? It's a type of financial ratio used to determine a company's ability to pay its short-term debt obligations. We'll go over a few different ratios here, but there are plenty more. So the first one we'll go over is your current ratio. So as its name would suggest, you're going to take your current assets and divide it by your current liabilities. A quick ratio is slightly different in that you're going to take those current assets, you're going to subtract out the inventory, and then you're going to divide it by those current liabilities again. This is the times interest earned, or sometimes referred to as the tie ratio, and that is going to be your EBITDA, which is EBIT, or operating income, adjusted for depreciation and amortization, and divided by interest expense. You have your cash build, and you have your cash burn. As you'll notice, there's a lot more ways to burn cash than build it. And then you have your net cash build, which is that cash build minus the cash burn. So why is this important? Well, it may seem a bit obvious why a liquidity ratio is important, but it's, can you pay your bills? Just because you have a profit doesn't necessarily mean you have the cash on hand to pay your short-term commitments. Also, things like the tie ratio, that times interest earned, helps creditors determine interest rate so that they know if you have a higher tie ratio, meaning you have more money after you've already paid your debt obligations, then they are likely to give you a lower interest rate because they know you're more likely to not default on that. So now we'll go into how to use those liquidity ratios that we went over. First, we'll go over the current ratio. So we'll take all of those current assets, everything except this PP&E, which is property, plant, and equipment, and we'll put that over our current liabilities. In this year, the only current liabilities we have are the salaries payable and accounts payable. Loans are typically not considered current liabilities just because you're having them over multiple years. So if we do that, we get this 62,250 over 8,200, and that gives us a current ratio of 7.59. Next, we'll go into our quick ratio, and as we talked about earlier, the main difference between these two is that you're taking that current assets and you're adjusting it for inventory. So when we do that, we get that same 62,250, adjust it for this inventory over here of 10,650, and then we divide it by that 8,200 as that's our same current liabilities. And that'll give us a quick ratio of 6.29. Next, we have our tie ratio, or as you might remember, our times interest earned ratio. And so with this, we're going to take our operating income, that EBIT, we're going to adjust it for depreciation, and then we're going to divide all that by our interest expense. So like I just said, we take that operating income, or EBIT, we adjust it for this non-cash bearing element, this depreciation, and then we're going to divide that by our interest expense. So for this company, we actually have a tie ratio of 2.57. So that means for every dollar of interest they're having to pay, they have $2.57 of EBITDA, or operating income adjusted for depreciation. And then we have our cash build. So we have our sales in this year, and then we have our change in accounts receivable. So if we take that sales from that, the revenue or sales from that 1 year, and then we take this difference in accounts receivable, this is our actual cash build for 2024 in this case. Our cash burn, as you might remember, this equation is a bit lengthy, so we just have our variables here. We have highlighted all the different variables in here, including our inventory, our current liabilities, fixed assets, and depreciation and interest expense. Here's those variables again, and here are the corresponding numbers to all of those. And that is our cash burn for that year. And then, as we talked about, our net cash build is that cash build that we got minus the cash burn. So that's going to be that 82,029 minus the 30,829, and that'll give us this 51,200. So in that year, that is how much cash we actually built.
My name is Rick Haskell, and I'd like to thank you for watching this video as part of the Bill and Vieve Gore School of Business's Business Certificate Series. I'm a finance professor in the business school, where I'm also the director for the college's Center for Financial Wellness. The Business Certificate Series is offered through the Center as part of our outreach through the Gore School of Business. You can follow us on social media through Westminster's Instagram, YouTube, LinkedIn, or Facebook pages. You can use the QR codes provided or simply go to these websites. Thank you.